Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving women leaders, and we talk about leadership purpose and its importance for you. I am a college professor, and when I am not doing that, I am speaking, writing, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women leaders how to find, and not only find, but how to stay in alignment with their leadership purpose so they can make a meaningful difference right there in their career, leadership, or business. Okay, let's dive in. Before we get into the episode, I have an exciting invitation for you. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Robin, and I want to let you know and invite you to a new group I started. It's called the Leadership Purpose Community. The Leadership Purpose Community. And it's a group that I think would be a really good fit for you as a listener of the podcast, because it's an extension of the podcast and we discuss a lot of the issues we do in the podcast and even more. And we'll be focusing on finding fulfillment in our work through leadership purpose. We'll address issues that face high-achieving women, issues and challenges, and we also will celebrate the achievements of high-achieving women. And you know, as I always say, what I mean by high-achieving women, women who are professional, ambitious, goal-oriented, doing all the things and supporting everyone else. This group is for you. And so I think you'd really enjoy it. And I'd love to have you come and join us. Love, love, love to have you come and join us. So if you're interested, come on over to Facebook and search for the Leadership Purpose Community, or go directly to the website, www.facebook.com/groups/Leadership Purpose Community. Again, www.facebook.com/groups/Leadership Purpose Community. I'd really love for you to join us. Hope to see you there. Okay, let's get to the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. So glad you're here and that you take time out of your busy day, your busy week and schedule to listen to the podcast. So glad you're here. And today I am talking to Russell Creed. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Russell. Russell is the founder of Invictus Life Coaching. And this is where he helps high-achieving men. That's right, you heard it, high-achieving men get unstuck, refocused, and live a life of purpose. Russell has successfully held positions as Chief Innovation Officer, Chief Actuary, and Chief Underwriter for a major insurance company. Yet, despite the success, he knows the pain of not living up to your true potential. It was only when he was sidelined with a life-altering illness that his true passion and purpose came into view. While it shook him to his core, his miraculous healing journey shifted his perspective of what's possible for all of us. Welcome, Russell Creed.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So glad you're here. Now, I just read your bio, a quick bio. Why don't you tell us more about who you are and then about what you do? Well, let's start with who you are.
Sure. Like I said, I'm Russell Creed. Who am I? That's an interesting question. A lot of people struggle with that question. Who am I? What I would say to answer that is I am someone who gets a lot of energy from helping others, from guiding others. Like I'm a natural born teacher and guide. I'm a very calm person. I bring calmness and groundedness to the situation. So I'm a peacemaker and a guide. That's who I am.
Yes. I resonate with all those things. I see all those in you is what I'm trying to say. So now tell us about the work you do.
Yeah, so I work with men, high-achieving men. I help them really develop an unconquerable mindset, because what I've found is that a lot of men go through life, they're doing all the things they think lead to success, and they get to a point where they're no longer fulfilled, no longer happy, right? And they're wondering, what did I do wrong? What's going on? They've done all the things that they were told they were supposed to do, and yet they feel that unfulfilled. And really, it's because they've lost a sense of who they are. Like, that's why when you ask me, who am I? It's like, wow, a lot of people can't answer that question. Who they are and what they even like or what they even want out of life. And they've only been doing the things that they need to provide for their family and be the leader in their job or whatever that they need. So I help men get connected to that, get connected, reconnected to their purpose. I help them develop an unconquerable mindset. I believe mindset is where the key is, and how we think about life is really what drives how we feel about life. Part of my work with men is helping them bond with other men. Along the way, a lot of guys end up dropping off all their friends in the pursuit of success and in their career, and they lose those connections, and it becomes much, much harder to develop those later in life. And so part of it, what I teach is men how they can get reconnected with other guys and be authentic in those connections.
Yes. And, our work is related. Although you work with high achieving men, I work with high achieving women, but there are very similar issues, which is why you and I connected. And so this is a wonderful connection. All right. So now we heard in your introduction a little bit about your life-changing healing journey. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
Share with us about that story.
Yeah. So when I was really at the height of my career, I was chief actuary, which at the time was like the number one job in America.
Wow.
I was chief actuary for a major insurance company. I went for a routine doctor visit, and it turned out to be not so routine, which began a really long journey of learning that I had a rare disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis. It's a mouthful. We usually say PSC, so it's not so hard to say. And what that is basically your body is attacking your bile ducts and destroying the bile ducts within your liver. And so your liver cannot process and pump out the bile. If you don't know, bile is very corrosive. It's what gets pumped into our digestive system so that it can digest all the food, and when it backs up in the liver, it creates cirrhosis of the liver. And so basically, I was a 40-year-old man with the liver of an 80-year-old alcoholic.
Oh.
And it was quickly deteriorating. I was put on the transplant list, and I spent 6 years on the transplant list with my health deteriorating. Some of those symptoms included fatigue. So I was always tired. I was still holding down a corporate chief executive job and providing for my family of 7. Wow. While dealing with debilitating fatigue. Another one is itchiness. I was itchy everywhere. If you've ever had poison ivy, imagine having that all over your body all the time.
Ooh.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, even inside my ears sometimes they would itch.
Oh my goodness.
And I was jaundiced. I looked like a big banana, yellow all the time. So those are the major symptoms: fatigue, itchiness, and jaundice. So I lived like that for 6 years, like a zombie, just trying to do what needed to get done to survive and still provide for my family. Towards the end, I had to go on disability because I couldn't even get out of bed anymore. I was so exhausted and tired. And thankfully, I received a liver transplant, which was really the only cure that they have for it.
Oh.
Chances of being a recipient are actually, they're pretty. It's not a guarantee, right? You get on the list, and there's a long waiting list. There's many that need it, and not a lot of livers and organs for people. So I was fortunate one who was able to receive a transplant, and everything went really well right afterwards. I did have some complications like a week after, which I had an internal tear. I nearly bled out entirely. I had a blood transfusion. They were pumping in blood into me, and it was coming out faster. So I don't know what they did to save me.
Wow.
But they did some miraculous things in the emergency room to keep me alive. And so that all in itself was, pretty traumatic.
Yes.
And after the complication, when I came through, I took on a lot of water weight from the trauma. I basically was 60 pounds heavier with just water and fluid after 6 years of atrophy. So I became immobile. I couldn't walk, I could barely talk, I could hardly see. And it took me many, many months to regain some of my ability. And so when I talk about, so that was just the start of the journey, right? It wasn't really what triggered my transformation. It was when I started to go back to life as normal after my recovery that I started to ask some hard questions. Why am I doing this? I just went through hell and this is my reward, right? To come back to a life that was unfulfilling, where I was going through the motions and I felt like it was empty and somewhat superficial. And so I started to ask those hard questions about, well, who am I? And what do I want? Which I discovered through that process was, instead of who am I, it's like, who do I want to be? I actually get a choice. And I started to learn a lot and follow some mentors that really helped teach me the power of the mind and how that can transform the world around us. Like, the outside world is really a reflection of what's going on inside us. And if we take control of what's going on between our two ears, that changes everything. And so that's what I inspire to help other men do now, is before they have to go through some tragedy like I did.
Yeah.
To wake up and recognize that they have the power to live a life that they want, the life they desire. And it starts with developing your mind, an unconquerable mindset.
Yes. Wow. That was some journey you went through. And you told us that's just a portion of it. And to think that you're here now and you're sharing with other men, that is a miracle. So I am right now, and we're all in the presence of a miracle.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm so glad that you used it for good.
Yes.
Because you could be bitter and angry about that time and just stay there in that bitter and angry and not move forward with the thought of others in mind, but yet you're doing the opposite. And so for that,
there were a couple years where I was in that place of bitterness and anger.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I saw that this was just leading down a path that wouldn't take me anywhere.
Yeah.
And knew something had to change.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, and I'm sure others do too, for being here and doing the work that you do. So speaking of the work you do, tell us what you enjoy most about it and why.
Yeah, I enjoy most about helping others come along and that aha moment. That aha moment is like gold, right? To find that. And so when someone comes into their own, when they recognize their purpose and truly see their purpose for what it is, and recognize, oh, I've been doing that my whole life. I just couldn't see it before. That's one of those aha moments. And it's transformational. It's really, once you know, you can't unknow anymore, and you live life differently. So that's one thing I really enjoy, is helping men find their purpose. And finding is not really the right word. It's seeing their purpose because they've been living it their whole lives. We all live our purpose every day. It's just, are we doing it intentionally or accidentally? And once you know it and can be intentional about it, it changes everything.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I know that's true for myself. And you have a lot of experience and expertise now, especially from all areas, back when you were with the insurance company, through life. So you can pick any area of your life where you have gleaned out of all your wisdom. What's some insight you can share with the listener who, lots of different people listen to the podcast, but I created the podcast for high achieving women who are professional, ambitious, goal-oriented, doing all the things. And it sounds like they have some of the same characteristics as the men that you work with, but we just picked a particular group. So from your insight, your insights working with men, what can you share with the women who are listening and everybody who's listening?
Yeah, I think something that's important to understand, and I think this probably happens to both men and women, is that along the way, especially for high achievers, that we forget to take care of ourselves, right?
Yes.
We're all about doing the stuff and reaching those levels of achievement. And we forget to take care and do the things that really build us up. And when we are full, when we build ourselves up and fill ourselves up, then we have more to give on the other side. One thing I like to talk about, especially for men, and I think this would be helpful for women to understand, is that men tend to bond shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. And so when we're talking about how do we get guys to get together and build authentic relationships, it really starts with doing something active. When they bleed together or sweat together, and I'm just, bleeding isn't, we don't want to, but it's that physical activity that really starts to build the bond for men. And that creates the platform for where they can actually take things a little deeper and create those authentic relationships. I like to talk about the 4 A's of authentic relationships, and it starts with activity and then acknowledgement. Like when men can step up and say, hey, I recognize this in you and I appreciate that. And it's not something that's typically natural for us guys to go around complimenting others. Yet from what I've observed, women are fantastic at this. They do it all the time. My wife will be in the grocery store lane and will comment on the cashier's earrings, right? And then they have an instant bond, right? But so for men, but we can tap into this too, through that acknowledgement. And then asking for help. That's the 3rd A, ask for help. Like a lot of times we don't want to ask for help. We want to do everything ourselves. And that keeps us from our power. Our real power is in our community and joining together. And when we can step out of our own ego-centered place and ask for help, we become much greater. And then the 4th is accountability. So activity, acknowledgement, ask for help, and accountability. And those things are what bring men together to create those authentic relationships.
Yes, the 4 A's. Now, in your thinking, is it helps men to men or men in all relationships, not just when they're bonding, like on a team or in work or, as a team or a group member of work?
Yeah, I think it's men to men
in
general. Like, I can just look at when I do things with my boys, like if we play games together or if we go out and do some activity, that's when we bond better. Instead of the contrast. And there's nothing wrong with this, but like sitting down and doing a book study together, it gets all intellectual, right? And we don't really create that emotional connection. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean to demean it, because those are useful activities, right? But they don't create that feeling of connectedness.
I see. But if you had those activities with your wife instead of your son, would you still have that type of bonding?
It does help. I think it helps with men to bond that way. Yes.
Yeah.
I recognize maybe it's not always the same for women.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to do it both ways.
A little give and take.
Give and take. But yes, I guess my one advice to high achieving women is to do things with your high achieving men, right? And that will help with the bonding.
Okay, good. So as you know, my work is leadership purpose. We've had this conversation before today, and that's the podcast, Leadership Purpose. So when you hear the term leadership purpose, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, what comes to my mind is leading with purpose, and like knowing the purpose behind where you're driving or directing or helping guide people, right? Purpose and intentionality, I think, go hand in hand. Right? And so it's being intentional in where you're going and bringing others along with you in that path.
Yeah.
We're all leaders, whether we recognize it or not. Everyone is a leader. And so are you doing it with intention or is it accidental? And so when you say, leadership purpose, what I envision is being intentional with your leadership.
Yes. And do you think it's important?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why?
Well, it's like I said, everyone is a leader, right? And would you rather it be intentional or accidental? You don't know what's going to happen or where you're leading people when it's accidental. And when it's on purpose, and when you can cast a strong vision and you bring others along with that, I think it brings everyone together and helps them get to your goal or purpose faster. I've been in organizations where it's not clear, right? Where we're going, and you're just doing the daily routine stuff. And it's so easy to get bogged down with that and get overwhelmed and then lose joy in what you're doing.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't know why. If you don't know why, it becomes very hard to keep doing the things you're doing.
Yes.
But if you have a purpose, if you know the why, if it's intentional, then that keeps you motivated. We're intrinsically drawn to do things for a purpose and for a reason.
Yes. Yes. Of course, I resonate with that. Of course, I would. All right. So now, is there anything that comes to your mind that I didn't get a chance to ask you yet that you'd like to talk about, or just one thought that pops to your mind, or any random thought?
Well, one of the things we didn't really talk about is one of the things I do, and that is I take men out on weekend adventures. As part of my coaching practice, we go on a backpacking adventure in the Ozarks to really help men connect with themselves and with other guys. So, like I said, the 4 A's of authentic connection start with activity. So I create an activity for guys to get together and build that bonding. And then we spend a weekend hiking, climbing to a mountaintop, having some conversations around the fire and doing some fire circle ceremonial stuff to help really have an encounter with our authentic selves.
Yes, that does sound like a real adventure. Okay. All right. So if anyone wants to connect with you so they can learn more about you and maybe send the men in their lives on one of your retreats, how can they connect with you?
So the best way to find out more about my retreats is to go to my website, theinvictuslife.com. That'll have all information there, and there's a place to get a hold of me there. Or I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can find me there by my name, Russell Creed, and that will be a way to connect.
Okay, great. And we'll be sure to put those in the show notes. Well, Russell Creed, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and your heart. Really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone. And if you want to hear more from me, you can contact me on my website, robinlowens.com, or I'd love to hear from you on social media. Just contact me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram at Robin L. Owens, PhD. Robin L. Owens, PhD. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Robin signing off. See you next time.